Hello and welcome. Align with your design coaching members and the human design tribe at large. I am here with Nicole Herring, and this is Nattalee Lillico. If you're just listening to the recording from Align with Your Design Coaching. And I am going to hand this over to Nicole. She's going to share a training with us that as you listen to it, you'll see how human design fits right along with what she's sharing. So take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for joining us on this training. And then, of course, thank you, Nattalee, for continuing to invite me into your community. Nattalee and I have been working together on a really awesome project, which brings the elements of what I do with my clients and the element of human design and how she serves her clients. And we created just an amazing integrated approach for how we're serving our clients together. So I'm an NLP practitioner. Well, let me get into the slides so that you can read along with it. So let me go ahead and do a screen share here. Okay, so my name is Nicole Herring, and I am an NLP practitioner, an idea innovator, a limitation challenger, a visionary thinker. I spent the first part of my career as an entrepreneur saying, how can I get paid to be creative? And then just through a process of understanding that most of the clients who were hiring me for creative process really needed some life coaching so that they could be the entrepreneur who's getting the success that they desired. And so that's when I went down the path of becoming an NLP practitioner, discovered human design, worked with Nattalee, and then I was like, okay, we've sealed the deal. We have to create a joint program. So just a quick offering of what it is, just so you know, Brilliant Brain Training is the life coaching program for entrepreneurs that I've created, and it helps our clients to feel, heal, whole, and vibrant. And a huge piece of what we do is clean the slate of the past and even of the future so that we can use our human design and work within our alignments and start working within our strategy, being in alignment, and all of the things that come with human design become more possible, faster, easier than once we've cleaned up the slate with Brilliant Brain Training. So that's why her and I have an amazing sort of joint offering in the way that we work with our clients. So if you haven't watched our last training, there's another one called What's Your Story? And it's really important that you understand that all these trainings that we're creating and what we're offering, it's like algebra. They're building blocks of foundational information and foundational understanding. And what you get from each training is then applied in future trainings. And so if you feel like you're spinning or you're not understanding where we're at right here, I would encourage you to go back and maybe watch a previous training that we have created prior to this, and just allow the information to grow and build. And just to know that we've created a process with regular trainings in a specific sequence because we know how it serves you along the way. So we did a story training of What's Your Story? And the reason why it's important that you want to know about that is because we talked about the energetics of being in the right place at the right time. And a tiny little snapshot of what that means is that, are you mentally and emotionally in the right place so that when you're physically coming at a crossroad with an opportunity or with a connection with another person, that a next level opportunity is available to you because mentally and emotionally you're in the right place at the right time. So it's not a circumstantial thing. People always talk about, oh, I was so lucky, I was at the right place at the right time. And I challenge that belief that you could be at the right place at the right time physically. I believe that actually comes from being in the right place at the right time mentally and emotionally. So what does that have to do with the talk we're doing today? Well, we're talking today about self-care. And in our program, in Brilliant Brain Training, we actually go through self-care as a 3-part process. And today we're only going to talk about one piece of part 1. So there's multiple layers of this onion. There's multiple layers of depth when it comes to self-care. And today we're going to talk today about what it means to have the safety of, so taking care of yourself, that's what I say, has multiple layers. And so there's a safety mechanism that has to be in place when it comes to creating success. So do you feel safe to succeed? That's the main question that a lot of times people find that they're feeling blocked or they're going through self-sabotaging behaviors or they just are having imposter syndrome. There's a variety of things of like, oh, I keep starting and stopping, right? What are your cycles and why do you have them? And a lot of times I think people feel like that there's something within them that prohibits them from doing, being, and having all that they want to have. And so what does safety mean? How do you have safety within you for success? And so we have an acronym. In case you didn't know, I'm an acronym junkie. Now you know, every time you come, I'll probably have an acronym because I think it helps us to remember the elements that are most important so that we don't go into overwhelm of all the possible ways that people can feel safe. We're going to focus on just these 6. Does that mean that there's not other elements to creating safety for success? Absolutely, there are other ways. Here are just a few to get you started. So the 6 things that we talk about in Brilliant Brain Training is S really does stand for self-care. So self-care is a unique process that is going to be meaningful to you, and it's going to support you for where you're at physically, mentally, emotionally, and even energetically. And that it does include self-care as a process of how you're regulating your emotions. So a lot of times people talk about self-care of like, wash your face, meditate, do yoga. That might be true, but as a manifester, part of my self-care is finding healthy ways to express anger and let out that physical energy in my body that was compounding or building. So if I'm having a mental or emotional outburst on other people, to me, that's an indication that my self-care is out of whack and I haven't found a better way to express anger. And now it's come out at someone unintentionally because I've repressed it somewhere else. So when you think about self-care, having a process that is unique to you, I've learned is unique to your design. So if you don't have a self-care practice that is meaningful, I would say, obviously, look into your design, understanding what is your design and how does that affect your health. So most of the times people think about finding self-care is just such in the physical realm. But I would say start with your physical, mental, emotional, energetic self and ask yourself, where do I need self-care today in just one of those areas? So if you can isolate a specific place where you know you're needing your energetics are really low, like, okay, how can you approach your self-care for that so that you can have the greatest impact on yourself today or right now in this season? If you know that your emotional health is totally out of whack, then you need to find some self-care that supports you in that way. So self-care is not just the yoga meditation thing. It could be, but there are all these other ways. Nattalee, do you want to chime in on anything about self-care based on design?
Well, an easy one would be look at the 9 centers in your chart, what's colored in or what's not colored in, and pick one of them, pick one of the 9 centers and see what's needed there, especially if it's not colored in, it can have some conditioning there. Even if it is colored in, it can not be in alignment. So that'd be an easy one to start with. Obviously, other than your strategy. I love your example about manifestors. So yeah, that'd be a good place to start, looking at the centers.
Okay, good. My cat's meowing at the door in case you hear her. She's like, how are we separated? What are we doing? So sorry, she's meowing quite a bit. The second letter of safety is A, and this one I call for advocacy. And so what I want to remind people is that communicating your needs without asking permission, it's a skill set, right? And so it's also like we're not being super demanding and making other people do things that we want them to do for us. It's how do you get the support that you desire in your home, in your business, in your relationships, and everything in between. And a lot of times, I think it's important that we ask ourselves, how can I fulfill this within me? How can I advocate for my needs? And then how can I fulfill my own needs and really take self-responsibility so that we're not making it other people's responsibility to fix and help or, give us what we need. Yes, it's okay to have a relationship with someone where you ask them for things and then they're willing to say yes or no. And you can have a relationship with people where there is a give and a take. No one's saying you can't have that. but the burden of your needs belong to you, not other people. So it's a matter of just what we call in brilliant brain training is assuming radical responsibility. So all the times, like, what if I need help with the kids? Like, it's my responsibility to get help with the kids. That doesn't mean it's my responsibility to do all the things the kids need, right? And so also with the business, if I know that I need help with the business, it's up to me to make sure that I'm putting the right people in place. Also with household stuff, it's like we need things to be done. If your partner is unable to accommodate all the things that need to be done, how can you outsource those things outside of your home? Bring in a handyman, call in yard service, get a housekeeper, do some things that can help create freedom and space and margins in your life, instead of having that, a tension in a relationship for people not giving you or providing what you need. Even if it's in like a service base, like if not Maslow's, if the love languages, some people feel loved by acts of service. But if somebody else can't give them what they need as a service, then there feels like a disconnection emotionally. What if that wasn't true? What if you could just create that, fulfill that need and take the burden off someone else, so that when they do come to you and are able to fulfill something within their ability, it really feels good because it wasn't a burden on them and it came from the right place. It came from their heart as opposed to some sense of responsibility to you. So one of the things that I like to encourage people is that if you feel uncomfortable asking for what you want or need in your relationships, whether it's with colleagues or your boss or your team, your clients, your kids, your partner, like friendships, if you're having a hard time expressing your needs, really try connecting with the inner child and ask her, why is it asking for what she wants hard for her to do? And obviously there's a lot of coaching that goes around on healing and some of those wounds from childhood, but just having that conversation will really give you a lot of insight on how this how this pattern was initiated. How you heal it is another process, but understanding where it comes from, that information alone can be really liberating. So, okay. F in the acronym is freedom to fail. And the reason why I talk a lot about creating the freedom to fail is because the ability to recover from mistakes is such an important skill. And that's when people can really go into growth. That's when they really get out of their comfort zone. That is when they are really able to expand into their life visions. So if you have big goals that feel a little bit scary, but you know that no matter what, however it is you go through that process, either you are successful or you learn from the mistake. If you feel like you're winning either way, it creates freedom to fail, which also means you feel safe to succeed because you can move on from any failure and get something from it. And that creates an ability to what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, you can really depend on yourself. Whether you do it right or you do it wrong, you make it good or it goes bad, it doesn't really matter. You're there for you. And so when you can banish the negative Nancy or the inner critic, that's when you really know that no matter what happens, you've got your own back. And that is a strength that entrepreneurs especially have to really have, because no one is necessarily there to tell you that you didn't do it right, but it's okay, we're going to try again. You have to do that for yourself. Versus when you're, an employee, they're giving you a roadmap. This is the job description. This is what you're meant to do. Here's how we want you to do it. The path is very clear for an employee on how to create success in their job. If you don't have that roadmap as an entrepreneur, because you're literally creating something out of nothing, you have to be able to offer yourself a soft place to land.
I just want to say one thing about the failure as it relates to human design is there's a thing called trial and error that is a keyword for one of the profiles of the third line. And so some people are more easily can do the trial and error. Oh, that worked. Oh, that didn't work. For others, it is a little bit more of a stretch. So there's another reason why just knowing where your design is to see if, you know, if that's natural for you or if it's something you have to nurture inside yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the important parts about even coaching is that having a safe place for a feedback loop. So it's like this didn't really work out. What you sometimes you only have what's in your current perspective. And that's why working with a coach who, is there for your success as much as you are for your success, it can really help you stay on the path and that seeing what is the message or the lesson of this failure is sometimes easier to get to when you have a feedback loop and somebody who you're talking with and going through the negative emotion without spinning. It's like, okay, this is how I feel, but like, how do we get through it? So that's great. Thank you for mentioning that.
Mhm.
All right, E stands for emotions. So I mentioned at the beginning that we have brilliant brain training. And so what we have in our program is that we create a community of entrepreneurs, creatives, and founders who are healed, whole, and vibrant. So when we think about vibrant, it's like it's beautiful, colorful. And when you connect what a vibrant life experience is, it's a full range of colors. And in this scenario, in my program, we have talked about a full range of emotions. And we've attributed a colorful, vibrant, the best life experience you want to have includes a full range of emotion. And so the spectrum of colors and the spectrum of emotion that you're here to experience as part of the human, the gift of being a human, right? The human experience. That means that you don't want to suppress your emotions. Allow yourself to feel what you're feeling without getting stuck into spinning or going into victimization mode. Honoring how you're feeling and allowing yourself to move through something is how you get to the other side. But a lot of us have gone through conditioning patterns where expressing emotions was not safe at home. It wasn't allowed when we were younger. So we've gotten into these, patterned habits of not allowing ourselves to experience a full range of emotion. And then we've got into a lot of people get into suppressing the emotions. So this is why I said, even with the self-care practice and how that is so important, is because knowing your own emotional cycles and how to move through them in a way that's healthy for you is how you get to the other side. So if you're a manifestor like me, get yourself a punching bag and hang it up in the garage and, find a healthy way to let go of the anger. The energetic of anger is literally energy in the body, and let that move through you. So if you struggle to go through a negative emotions, or if you feel like you cycle through them a lot, there's two things that I teach clients to do. One is find the next most closest emotion away from something negative without pretending to be positive, and see what can you find that falls in that land of neutrality in the middle. What can you do, or how can you think or feel that is a step up from negative, but isn't like the false positivity or toxic positivity that's just not even real. We're not asking you to pretend to be happy. We're asking you to say, if you didn't feel this negative feeling, what else could you feel? Could you move to something a little bit more neutral? Sometimes it's easier to do that. Also, sometimes if people say I just never feel happy, if you don't know how to shift your emotions and you haven't gone through a process where you learn how to, trigger better emotions on demand, it's a skilled practice, especially if you're trying to do it in a way that's healthy and you're not just suppressing negative emotions, but you are trying to shift into emotion. Sometimes I coach my clients on recalling positive memories. That can affect the way you're thinking and feeling right now. If you remember a happy time, it can make you feel better in the moment without pretending that you're happy, because you're literally just in your mind replaying a memory like a videotape. And that can lighten the feeling in your body just by recalling a positive memory. You're also not walking into work and then be like, I'm having the best day ever, right? That might not be true for you, but you could lighten your load by just recalling a positive memory if feeling better right now just feels like too much of a stretch. So the next one that we have is trust. And this is an interesting one because of most of the clients that I work with, they come to me wanting to make decisions about their business, or they want things to be different, but they're just not sure if it's right or wrong. And here's what we would like to offer, especially within human design: understanding if something is right or wrong is like, it's a very decisive way of being. And what we learn is that there's things that are correct for us and incorrect. We've talked about it in the way we were raised culturally. Right and wrong is that there's, two ways to do something, and we're learning how to defer to our intuition versus challenging our instincts. And so why this is important is because your instincts will often offer you fight, flight, or freeze, or even fawn, which is placating the threat, and will offer for you to, be safe. Don't avoid sudden death, right? Avoid being eaten alive by the saber-toothed tiger, and that your intuition to do something is not to be trusted. A lot of us have been conditioned that trusting our gut or following our intuition is creates unsafe results. And so if you decide that you are creating a safe place to land within yourself, even if you make a decision and it ends up being a decision that doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, you can still create safety within yourself of saying, well, that didn't work how I intended, let's try again, as opposed to like, oh, there I was wrong, I can't trust myself. I've done it there, I've done it again. You want to be able to start creating that trust for yourself by also maintaining a safe place to land. And you have to be able to ride that line of going with your gut, challenging your instincts of what it means to stay safe. And you have to toggle on that line sometimes to understand where the line really is for you, which means sometimes it's going to work out and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, how you treat yourself in that process will determine your future success. So this is an interesting one. Y stands for yield ability. And what does that even mean? So yield ability is what I've been discovering with human design, is learning to yield to your unique strategy, especially when making decisions and before you're taking action. And so I think that really does play into understanding what your intuition is. But for me, understanding what my intuition is, that comes from understanding my strategy and being willing to experiment with it while having a soft place to land if my experiment doesn't work the way I wanted it to, and just trying again. So I'll ask Nattalee, like, as far as understanding somebody's strategy, and how does that determine how they make decisions?
Oh my gosh, that's a big topic. Okay, understanding somebody's strategy. The strategy is really the mechanics. That's the bigger picture. For example, your strategy could be, wait to respond, wait to be invited. And then of course, within that, we can unpack that quite a bit. So, but just honoring that part of yourself, like just changing your pace a little bit, especially in the beginning, to say, did I wait? Did I initiate this? Am I pushing this? So there's just some inquiry that would help anybody, especially the first couple of years in, am I really aligned with my strategy?
I love that.
For the each different types. And the intuition and instinct just, fits so much into this. We could talk for that about instincts and intuition for a week. I get a lot of people that come to me for that as well. How do I don't trust myself anymore. So it's really unpacking, and there is some fine lines within instinct and intuition that that's the experiment, and that's the willingness to not do it perfectly or have things not turn out the way that you thought they were. That doesn't mean your intuition isn't working just because it doesn't match what your expectation was.
I love that. So I'll just follow this up with one thing before we go to the last slide. And so here's the interesting thing about yielding ability as a manifestor whose gifts are in the now. There's been a lot of things that I've learned that yielding to my design sometimes means taking action immediately and trusting my gut the moment that something happens, and honoring that instead of delaying my thought process and deciding I need to think about it, right? So just the other day, somebody was talking about something on Facebook. I immediately responded and gave her, what I saw was the path for alignment for her, gave some insight. It resulted in her wanting to schedule a call about potentially working together. And in the past, what I would have done is that I would have like thought about what my thoughts were. I would have gone to sit down and write about it. I would have delayed responding to her in the moment. And then I would have probably written a post, written content, or responded and been, write something that was helpful to her, but waited long enough that now it felt irrelevant. And then I would have done nothing. So what ended up happening was I responded to her in the moment. We immediately created a connection. We talked outside of that container just privately. And so working together might be an option. And then I did go back and take my advice to her and my insight that I had. And I did create a content post that was really meaningful, and I cleaned it up. And then I used it for social media. And so when you think about as an entrepreneur, being able to run your business according to your design, it looks different from person to person. And for me, it's learning how to just be in the moment and not second guess or, manipulate what I'm doing based on what I think I should be doing. It was like following in the moment. Yielding to my design didn't mean yield at all. It meant go. So it's kind of an interesting play on words there. So at the end, here's what we want to talk about is like, if you were to really give yourself full permission to take care of yourself this weekend, what would you do? What would that look like? And we can even go back all the way here to understanding. Let's see, where was it? Understanding right here. Physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, what does self-care look like for you right now in this moment or in this season? How do you do that for you? How do you integrate your design in what you're doing? But more importantly, does self-care look like actually something completely different than you're doing right now? And that if you're experiencing resistance in taking better care of yourself, that might be your intuition saying, this isn't what I even need. I want to be able to lean into that and take into consideration that your resistance to take better care of yourself might be because you've been avoiding doing the thing that you actually need. And sometimes that's hard and difficult, which is why we avoid it, which is why we're here to support you. So that's it for what I wanted to do in the training today. Thanks, Nattalee. I love doing these. I love coming up with this content. And let me go ahead and stop share here. And I'll let you go from here.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. This was really rich, and I think people can see that these are just the tip of the iceberg of each of these topics. And so there's an invitation here and to join the program, the BBT program. And if you're watching this on YouTube, so I'll put that information below. And guess what? You can be live with Nicole and I, and that is coming up on Tuesday, April 26th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. If you're on my mailing list, you'll get that notice in advance. And I'll put the link to where you can join us if you're just watching us on YouTube. But it's a chance to talk about what Nicole has shared here. Any questions, or you want some laser coaching. So we invite you to join us live coming up on Tuesday, the 26th at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And that's it for now. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.